control your thoughts. Because the moment you lose control of your mind, you lose control of your life. Everything begins there. Every action, every decision, every result you experience. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because their thoughts are working against them. They wake up already defeated, already doubting, already telling themselves stories of why they can't, why it's too hard, why they're not enough. And without realizing it, they are programming their own limits. But here's the truth. Your mind doesn't care whether what you tell it is positive or negative. It simply obeys. If you feed it fear, it will create hesitation. If you feed it doubt, it will create excuses. If you feed it doubt, it will create excuses. But if you train it with belief, with focus, with relentless intention, it will start to build a version of you that refuses to break. Mental toughness begins the moment you become aware of what's going on inside your head and decide that not every thought deserves your attention. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts to believe. And that choice changes everything. Think about it. Every great achievement you have ever admired started in someone's mind. First, before the success, before the recognition, before the results, there was a decision. A decision to believe even when it wasn't easy. A decision to stay focused, even when distractions were everywhere. A decision to keep going even when failure was staring them in the face. That's the power of controlled thinking. When your mind is disciplined, your actions become powerful. You stop reacting emotionally to every setback and instead you respond with purpose. You stop overthinking every move and instead you start executing with confidence. You stop letting negativity drain your energy and instead you direct that energy toward growth. And let's be real, life will test you. There will be days when everything feels like it's falling apart, when doubt creeps in, when your own mind tries to convince you to quit. But that's exactly when control matters the most. Because a tough mind doesn't disappear under pressure, it gets sharper. It refuses to let temporary emotions create permanent decisions. It steps back, regains focus, and says, I'm still in control. That's the difference between those who break and those who rise. So from this moment forward, you have to become ruthless with your thoughts. Guard your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. Don't allow negativity to sit there and grow. Don't entertain excuses. Don't replay failures over and over again. Instead, replace them. Shift your focus. Train yourself to think stronger, to think bigger, to think forward. This doesn't mean you'll never have negative thoughts. It means they won't control you anymore. It means you'll acknowledge them, but you won't obey them. You'll choose discipline over emotion, clarity over chaos, belief over doubt. And as you keep doing this day after day, something powerful starts to happen. You become unshakable. Your confidence no longer depends on circumstances. Your mindset no longer collapses under pressure. You become the kind of person who walks into any situation knowing that no matter what happens, your mind is your strongest ally. And once you truly control your thoughts, you don't just change your mindset, you change your entire life. Pain is something most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. They run from it, distract themselves from it, numb it, ignore it, anything to escape the discomfort. But what if I told you that the very thing you're trying to avoid is the exact thing you need to grow? Pain is not your enemy. Discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is not your weakness. Discomfort is not your weakness. It is your training ground. Every time life gets hard, every time things don't go your way, every time you feel pressure building inside you, that's not life trying to break you. That's not life trying to break you. That's life trying to build you. The problem is, most people quit in those moments. They step back into comfort because it feels safe, because it feels easy. But nothing great was ever built in comfort. Strength is forged in struggle. Confidence is built in moments of doubt. Growth happens when you are pushed beyond what feels easy and forced to become more. When you start to understand this, your relationship with pain changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift alone is powerful, because now instead of resisting discomfort, you start using it. You start leaning into it. And that's where transformation begins.
Think about the moments in your life that shaped you the most. It wasn't the easy days, the comfortable routines, or the times when everything went perfectly.
Or it was the struggles, the failures, the setbacks, the moments when you felt like giving up but somehow kept going. Those are the moments that built your character, your resilience, your strength, and yet when new challenges come, we forget that. We act like discomfort is something new, something unbearable, something we shouldn't have to face. But the truth is every level of growth comes with a new level of pain. If you want to become stronger, you have to lift heavier weights. If you want to become faster, you have to push your limits. If you want to become faster, you have to push your limits. If you want to become mentally tough, you have to face situations that test your mind. There is no shortcut around it. Pain is part of the process, and the people who succeed, the people who rise above, are not the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who embrace it. They understand that discomfort is temporary, but the strength it builds is permanent. So when things get hard, they don't run. They stay. They push. They endure. Because they know that every second they spend in that uncomfortable space, they are becoming someone stronger than they were before. They are becoming someone stronger than they were before. And that mindset changes everything. Because now, pain is no longer something to fear. It becomes something to use. So the next time you feel discomfort, don't back away from it. Step into it. When your body feels tired, push a little further. When your body feels tired, push a little further. When your mind says, this is too hard, remind yourself that this is exactly where growth happens. When life throws challenges at you, don't shrink. Rise. Train yourself to see pain as a signal not of weakness, but of opportunity. Because every time you choose to endure, every time you refuse to quit, every time you keep going despite how you feel, you are strengthening your mind. You are building a version of yourself that cannot be easily shaken, that doesn't crumble under pressure, that doesn't fold when things get tough. And over time, what once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What once made you want to quit becomes something you can handle with control and confidence. That's the power of embracing discomfort. It rewires you. It transforms you. It turns you into someone who doesn't just survive challenges, but thrives in them. It thrives in them. And once you reach that point, there's nothing life can throw at you that you won't be ready to face. Embrace the pain, because on the other side of it is the person you are meant to become. Discipline is the bridge between who you are right now and who you say you want to become. Yet it's the one thing most people avoid because it doesn't feel good in the moment. It's easy to be motivated when you're inspired, when you're excited, when everything feels aligned. When you're excited, when everything feels aligned. But motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes, rises and falls, and disappears the moment things get uncomfortable. Disappears the moment things get uncomfortable. Discipline, on the other hand, is different. Discipline shows up when you don't feel like it. Discipline moves when your mind is tired, when your body is exhausted, when excuses are louder than your goals. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. Because the truth is, your success will never be determined by what you do occasionally. It will always be determined by what you do consistently. Anyone can take action on a good day. Anyone can take action on a good day. Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated. But the people who build mental toughness, the people who actually transform their lives, are the ones who show up on the bad days. The days when nothing feels right. The days when quitting feels easier. The days when no one is watching. That's where discipline is built. That's where your identity begins to change. Because every time you choose action over excuses, you are proving to yourself that you are in control. The reality is, discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you train, just like a muscle. At first, it feels hard. Your mind resists. It looks for shortcuts, distractions, reasons to stop. It tells you you can do it tomorrow. This is too much. You deserve a break. And if you listen to it, you stay stuck in the same cycle, over and over again. But the moment you start acting, despite that resistance, something shifts. You begin to realize that your feelings don't have to control your actions. You begin to understand that you can feel tired and still move forward, feel unmotivated and still get things done, feel doubt and still take action. That's the foundation of mental toughness, because now you are no longer dependent on how you feel. You are driven by what you've decided. And that's a dangerous level of control, because once you reach that point, excuses start to lose their power. Excuses start to lose their power. Procrastination starts to fade. You stop negotiating with yourself and start executing. And over time, those small, consistent actions begin to compound. What once felt difficult becomes routine. What once required effort becomes automatic. And suddenly, you are no longer chasing discipline. You have become disciplined. You have become disciplined. But here's what most people don't realize. Discipline is not just about big actions. It's about the small decisions you make every single day. It's about waking up when you said you would. It's about waking up when you said you would. It's about doing the work when no one is forcing you. It's about staying focused when distractions are everywhere. It's about choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort again and again and again. Because every time you make that choice, you are strengthening your mind. You are building a standard for yourself that does not bend based on your mood. And that standard becomes your identity. You become the person who follows through. The person who keeps promises to themselves. The person who keeps promises to themselves. The person who doesn't quit when things get hard. And once you become that person, everything changes. Your confidence grows because you trust yourself. Your results improve because you are consistent. Your mindset becomes stronger because you have proven through action that you can handle more than you thought. And that's the real power of discipline. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for motivation to show up. Decide who you want to be, and then show up as that person every single day, no matter what. Because in the end, it's not motivation that will carry you. It's discipline that will define you. There is a voice inside your head that speaks louder than anything else in your life. And for most people, that voice is not supportive. It's critical, doubtful, and limiting. It tells you you're not ready, not capable, not good enough. It reminds you of your past failures, exaggerates your weaknesses, and convinces you to play small. And the most dangerous part is, it doesn't sound like an enemy. It sounds like you. That's why so many people believe it without question. They accept those thoughts as truth and allow them to dictate their actions. But if you want to toughen your mind, you have to understand this. Self-doubt is not reality. It's a pattern. It's something that has been built over time through fear, experiences, and repetition. But just like any pattern, it can be broken. The problem is not that doubt exists. The problem is that you've been listening to it for too long without challenging it. Every time you hesitate, every time you hold back, every time you convince yourself you can't, you are reinforcing that voice. You are giving it power. But the moment you start questioning it, the moment you stop accepting it as truth, you begin to take that power back. Because that voice is not who you are. It's just a habit of thinking that you've practiced for years. Think about how many opportunities people lose because of self-doubt. Not because they weren't capable, but because they convinced themselves they weren't. They didn't take the shot. They didn't start the project. They didn't start the project. They didn't step forward when it mattered. And all because of a thought that was never proven to be true. That's the trap. Self-doubt makes you feel safe in the moment, but it costs you your future. It keeps you in your comfort zone, where nothing grows, nothing changes, and nothing improves. But if you want to build mental toughness, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, especially when it comes to your own mind. You have to act even when doubt is present. You have to move forward even when your confidence is not fully there. Because confidence is not something you wait for. It's something you build through action. Every time you do something you were afraid of, every time you push past hesitation, every time you prove that voice wrong, you weaken it. You start to replace I can't with maybe I can, and eventually with I will. That transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it happens through consistent defiance of that inner voice. And once you start seeing results, once you realize that you are capable of more than you believed, that doubt begins to lose its grip on you. So from this point on, you need to change the way you respond to that voice. Don't try to silence it completely, because it will show up.
But don't obey it either. Instead, challenge it. When it says you're not ready, ask yourself why. When it tells you you'll fail, ask for proof. When it tries to hold you back, take a step forward anyway. Because the truth is, that voice has no control unless you give it control. And the more you act despite it, the quieter it becomes.
Over time, you begin to build a new voice, one that is stronger, more confident, more focused. A voice that reminds you of your progress, your strength, your ability to overcome. And that's when everything changes. Because now, instead of being your biggest limitation, your mind becomes your greatest ally. You stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting your actions. You stop shrinking back and start stepping up. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for certainty, but creates it through movement. And that is real mental toughness. Not the absence of doubt, but the ability to rise above it and keep going anyway. Silence the doubt by proving it wrong with your actions. Pressure is something you cannot escape. It shows up when the stakes are high, when expectations rise, when everything feels like it's on the line. And in those moments, most people don't rise. They fold. Their thoughts become scattered, their emotions take over, and their focus disappears. They panic, they hesitate, they lose control. But mental toughness is revealed in exactly those moments. It's not about how you perform when everything is easy. It's about how you respond when everything feels like it's working against you. Because pressure doesn't break you, it exposes you. It reveals the habits you've built, the mindset you've built, the mindset you've trained, the level of control you truly have over yourself. If your mind is undisciplined, pressure will amplify your fear. If your mind is strong, pressure will sharpen your focus. That's the difference. And the truth is, you don't wait for pressure to arrive to prepare yourself. You train for it every single day. In the way you think, in the way you act, in the way you handle small challenges. Because those small moments are practice for the big ones. Every time you stay calm when things go wrong, every time you choose focus over frustration, every time you keep moving instead of freezing, you are building the ability to handle pressure when it matters most. When pressure hits, your mind will try to rush you. It will push you into overthinking, into doubt, into emotional reactions that take you away from what actually matters. And if you let it, you lose your edge. That's why staying focused under pressure is not about eliminating stress. It's about controlling your response to it. It's about slowing everything down internally, even when everything around you feels fast and chaotic. Think about the strongest individuals you've ever seen in high-stakes situations. They don't look panicked. They don't look overwhelmed. They look calm, controlled, locked in. And that's not because they don't feel pressure. It's because they've trained themselves to operate through it. They've learned how to breathe, how to center themselves, how to bring their attention back to what they can control. And that's the key. Control what you can control. What you can control. Not the outcome, not the circumstances, not other people, but your thoughts, your actions, your focus. When you narrow your attention to that, pressure loses its power over you. Because instead of being consumed by everything that could go wrong, you are locked in on what needs to be done right now. And that clarity gives you strength. It allows you to move with purpose instead of panic, with intention instead of hesitation. So the next time you feel pressure building, don't resist it. Step into it with control. Remind yourself that this is your moment to prove your mental strength. Slow your breathing. Steady your thoughts. Slow your breathing, steady your thoughts. Because that's the only place you have power. Break the situation down. One step, one action, one decision at a time. Don't let your mind jump ahead and overwhelm you. Stay grounded in what's in front of you. And trust yourself. Trust the work you've put in, the discipline you've built, the resilience you've developed. The resilience you've developed. The resilience you've developed. Because pressure is not here to stop you.
It's here to test if you're ready. And when you learn to stay focused in those moments, when you learn to stay calm while everything around you feels intense, you unlock a different level of performance. intense, you unlock a different level of performance. You become someone who doesn't just handle pressure, but thrives in it. Someone who sees challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to rise. And that's when you separate yourself from everyone else. Because while others are overwhelmed, you are in control. While others are breaking, you are building. Stay focused, stay calm, and let pressure bring out the strongest version of you. There comes a moment in every journey where everything inside you tells you to stop. Your body feels drained, your mind feels heavy, and the goal that once excited you now feels distant and almost impossible. This is the moment where most people quit. Not because they are incapable, not because they lack potential, but because they give in to that feeling. They listen to that voice that says, you've done enough, it's too hard, maybe this just isn't for you. And in that moment, they walk away, not realizing how close they were to breaking through. But mental toughness is built right there, in that exact moment. The moment when quitting feels like relief, but continuing feels like pain. Because the truth is, success doesn't belong to the most talented, the smartest, or the luckiest. It belongs to the ones who refuse to quit. The ones who keep going when it makes no sense. When there's no guarantee, when nobody's watching, and when progress feels invisible. That's what separates the average from the extraordinary. It's not a single big decision. It's the repeated choice to keep moving forward, no matter how slow, no matter how hard, no matter how long it takes. Think about how many times people stop just before things start to change. They put in effort for weeks, months, sometimes even years. And when results don't come fast enough, they give up. They convince themselves it's not working, that it's pointless, that it's time to move on. But what they don't see is that growth is happening beneath the surface. Strength is being built quietly. Skills are being developed slowly. And just because you can't see immediate results doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Quitting cuts that progress short. It resets everything. It takes you back to the beginning. But persistence compounds. Every effort builds on the last. Quitting cuts. Every effort builds on the last. Every step forward, no matter how small, moves you closer. And the people who win in life understand this. They understand that the journey will test their patience, their belief, their endurance. They expect it to be hard. They expect moments of doubt. But they don't let those moments define their actions. They don't let temporary feelings decide permanent outcomes. Instead, they lock in. They commit fully. They decide that quitting is not an option, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. And that decision changes everything. Because once quitting is off the table, your mind starts looking for ways to push through instead of ways to escape. So when you reach that point, when everything in you is telling you to stop, pause for a second and remind yourself why you started. Remember the vision, the goal, the person you said you want to become, and then make a choice. Not based on how you feel, but based on who you want to be. Because every time you choose to continue, you are strengthening something inside you that cannot be broken. You are building resilience, grit, and a level of mental toughness that most people never reach. And over time, that becomes your identity. You become the person who doesn't quit. The person who finds a way no matter what. The person who keeps going long after others have stopped. And that is powerful. Because in a world where so many people give up too soon, simply refusing to quit already puts you ahead. It makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Dangerous to your limits, to your fears, to anything that tries to hold you back. So don't stop. Don't slow down. Don't give in to that voice that tells you it's over. Don't give in to that voice that tells you it's over. Because the moment you feel like quitting is often the moment you're closest to something great, never quit. Because your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your persistence.